Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon from Sweden, and welcome to this week's live stream. My name is Sarah. I'm a part of Adway, and we do automated recruitment marketing in social media to enable a 24/7 candidate journey, fully automated and unbiased. I'm so thrilled to be here with you guys today, and I can't say this enough. Please show us your love in the comment section if you're with us. This is truly your moment to ask all your curious questions. And for the ones who would like all the key takeaways, please comment summary. Don't be shy. So I will give everyone a couple of minutes to tune in, but just fire away in the comment section, people. We'll also say that the subs for this live stream is optional. So if you don't like it, just turn them off. And I'm so thrilled to be welcoming the guest of this show today, all the way from beautiful London, the podcast host of Nevermind the Job Spec, the talent acquisition project manager, and the TA speaker, Glenn Martin. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the invite, and thank you for the intro. I love that, the initial intro you got there with a round of applause, everything like that. So that's wicked. Really cool.
How
cool
about the song? How about the song? Do you like the song?
I'm feeling that. I must admit, my intro for my podcast. I'm getting a little bit of music envy there.
Just hit me up with the intro, man. I'll fix that for you.
Sounds cool.
Cool. We have a lot of people with us. I know we have people from South Africa tuning in. I see a lot of people
folks.
from the US. I see UK. Nice. I see the Nordics, Sweden, of course. But I mean, let's dig into today. We, of course, welcome all your curious questions, but let's just pretend, Glenn, that I know nothing about you, who you are in the TA space, and how you improve this industry. So, like, fire away. This is your time to shine.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah. Well, listen, I mean, I've been in recruitment talent acquisition for over 15 years, right? So it's beyond a career. It's a mission for me. So hence why I do the podcast, hence why I do the event speaking, hence why I'm an advisor for a startup, because I genuinely believe in the value that talent acquisition and recruitment can deliver for individuals looking for a job and companies looking to hire the best talent. I primarily work now, certainly over the last 3.5 years, with startups and scale-ups because it's great fun. Love scaling businesses, going through the kind of funding rounds and stuff like that. But my background is completely in kind of recruitment technology. And then when I started to work with startups and scale-ups, it really expanded, as you would imagine, into every area that they needed to kind of build teams. So that's me. Been around for over 15 years now, and certainly not going anywhere soon, that's for sure.
That's for sure. We're happy to have you in the industry. And I'm a big fan, of course, of the podcast. You guys should have a listen. You really should. Cool. So, Glenn, we have a kind of a bold promise or a bold statement for today's topic, saying everyone's driving a Tesla or hybrid or electric car, never mind. But we're still recruiting as we did 15 years ago. How is 100%. This? How is this still possible?
So I think it is quite literally such a sliding scale within the industry, right? I always maintain that there is almost like a baseline of how you approach recruitment. Some companies stick to that baseline. That's pretty much their comfort zone. And then there are other companies that are a lot more progressive, both in terms of tech, how they're thinking about candidate experience, how they're thinking about DEI, how they're thinking about all the key elements of recruitment. So this is why you do have, I think, at the very cutting edge, companies that are like a Tesla version of recruitment. But at the other end of that scale, you've kind of almost got the diesel-led engine cars that are still roadworthy. Look, they're still roadworthy. They can still do a job. They can still get you from A to B.
Yeah.
But they're not particularly sexy. They're not exactly gonna make your friends talk about your mode of transport. They're not gonna really create an experience.
They're not environment friendly.
Exactly that. And they fulfill a function.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference. So I think the industry as a whole, there is, let's say, a baseline standard, but so many other companies are far more progressive. And I think that's where we're thinking about that kind of Tesla reference, really.
Yeah, really, and like empowering TA to own this question. Like there's
100%.
so much solutions, technology,
Yeah,
systems, professions out there inside of the TA space, and we are here to empower how to be comfortable,
100%.
be
100%.
modern, like educate,
Yeah.
challenge the old
I
ways.
mean, 100%. I mean,
Um,
it's like recruitment talent acquisition, right? Own your space,
yeah.
right? Own it, right? You are the experts. You are the people
Mm,
that know.
mm,
I know the business has an opinion, they have a desire, they have a requirement, right? But
yeah,
you own recruitment and talent acquisition. So
definitely.
own it like it's yours and drive it like it's a Tesla.
Quote being made.
Yeah.
Okay, so what type of questions would the modern TA professional ask themselves? Like we stated, the first one would be, how do we know where tech benefits us the most and where
Mm,
it actually doesn't in the TA funnel? So let's
definitely.
just dig into this one.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question, right? Because ultimately now you've got to look at that kind of funnel analysis, your conversion rates at each stage of the funnel.
Mm,
But before you even kind of get to that, I
mm,
mean, there's numerous data points and kind of reports and kind of thought leadership that states 60, over 60%, right? So
mm,
over 60% of applicants are deterred from a poor tech experience. So if your ATS is a legacy ATS, if
yeah.
you're, just kind of getting applicants to send their CVs into this bottomless pit of a kind of database,
Mm,
you're only going to get one opportunity to engage them. If they have that poor tech experience, they don't get any response, any acknowledgement of their application, they are not going to come back to your
mm,
business.
mm.
And if you don't even know that they're not going to come back to your business, just imagine the amount of talent that you're missing out on. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy, right?
definitely, definitely. And I don't know if a lot of TA professionals know this, but like the first 20% of your recruitment process
Mm,
provides 80% of your objectivity. So
mm,
you have to really
yeah,
design and know where to use technique, like where does it help us the most, and
yeah,
where would human input be most beneficial, and
mm,
also like least wrong,
yeah,
because we are
yeah,
we have our unconscious bias, and we need to
yeah,
like work around them. We need to acknowledge them and know how to make the best out of
yeah,
it. So to really like
100%.
take ownership into designing your funnel and really know where tech and automation will help us.
100%, Sarah. I mean, it's like measure what matters, right? If you have no data points along
Mm,
your TA funnel, if you don't know what you're measuring, right?
mm,
First and foremost, you have
yeah,
no meaningful data. Therefore, how do you know it's working, right?
yeah,
So if you take a step back and you think, okay, right, let's look at our kind of tech stack. Now that
mm,
could be at the top end, like an ATS, but you could
mm,
have an ATS, a CRM, you could have job boards, you could have assessments, you could have chatbots integrated, you have screening tools, right? If you've
yeah,
got all of that in your tech estate, but you
mm,
don't actually know how it's performing and therein how, what the applicant, an individual that's looking for a job, the
mm,
candidate feels about that, you've got nothing to measure. You don't even know whether it's working properly, right?
no,
So first
no,
and foremost, fix on the data points that matter to your business. So measure
mm,
what matters, right?
mm,
So start to think about the source of your hire. Start to think about ultimately the channel efficiency. Can you measure the channel efficiency?
you
Then can
can,
you look at applications, to your point, around the 20%
yeah,
at the top end of the funnel, right?
yeah,
How many of
yeah,
those applicants, how does that look in terms of an applicant quality ratio? So how many of
mm,
them are moving through the actual funnel itself?
mm,
And then you can move into things like cost per hire, time to hire, and those kind of elements. But this is the thing, you do need to look at your funnel and think about how you can optimize it, not
mm,
just create a experience, not experience it yourself. This is one of the things I find baffling,
yeah,
where recruiters and TA managers will create a candidate experience, but they'll never go through it themselves. They'll
mm,
never test it themselves, which you have to continually. You have to be continually revising, assessing, optimizing,
mm,
and that will feed back into the data so
of
that you can
course,
measure what matters. And
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the key driver for me. And I think one other piece, which is it sits in the world of recruitment now. I think it used to historically be perhaps the preserve of HR, which
mm,
is this point around quality of hire.
yeah,
And how do you measure that? So 12 months after somebody comes on board, recruitment now want to know what that quality of hire looks like, the attrition rates, the outputs, etc. So there's so much that you need to think about, I think, in terms of your overall kind of TA funnel, and where, to your point, where it does benefit the process. And if it benefits the process, it benefits the candidate, and where it doesn't. And you need to be able to get to a point where you can get that feedback and understand what the candidate's experience, what they think is good, what they think is poor, to iterate on your overall, candidate experience itself, right?
Yeah, 100%. And what I would advocate would be, like, it's 2021. You should stop cold sourcing candidates in the same old funnel, like, first of all. Secondly, I'd say no manual, like subjective handling of the candidates shouldn't like appear in the process. We should use screening questions based on, like, they should meet the need to haves. And we should rather test everyone and measure on potential as early as possible.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, really, that would be my biggest takeaway for this question. Like, really know where and how to design this process. And, we think this is like the most, like the most common thing ever. But,
100%.
people are back in their old Volvos, and we need to, update
definitely,
the hybrid, the Tesla.
Well, this is the thing, like recruitment marketing, right? Some companies think recruitment marketing is posting consistently on LinkedIn. No. I mean, you've got to think more broadly, right? You've got to think about all the different channels. And this comes back to that kind of channel efficiency. If you're posting and producing content and posting it out on whichever social channel you're looking at, whatever job board you may use, whatever kind of aggregator you may use, if you're not measuring that and you don't know the quality of how that content's landing, who you're attracting and who you're engaging, I'm sorry, you're working blind.
Yeah, and you're not a modern recruiter. You have to ask yourself these questions. Like, it's in your role. And
100%,
and if people don't know how to, it's a Google away. It's a question for me and you, whatever. Just get it going. Really,
you've got to be curious. You've got to be curious in this job, because ultimately 100%. You're continually looking for new opportunities and different trends in the kind of overall kind of job marketplace. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And there's always going to be new channels, new systems. So you have to be on your toes. It's in your 100%. Role as a TA professional. If we were to the next question a modern recruiter would ask themselves would be, how do you become an early adopter of this TA techniques, TA systems, and deliver better people-focused results? I know this is a passionate question of yours. We try to keep it short and snappy, right?
Yeah, I will keep it short and snappy.
Yeah.
2 ways, right? So there's 2 ways to be an early adopter, right? Yeah. 1, death by 1,000 demos. So ultimately you can take every demo request or every invitation for a demo and you can just continually, just review technology. Or 2, you can be proactive. You can start thinking intentionally about what you think is going to be useful for you on a day-to-day basis and actually go out and research and find if that is available. So for me at the moment, I'm really interested in how audio can be used. So not video, audio only. Can be used to increase the efficiency for applicants and candidates and people looking for a job, and how TA can use audio to better either screen, engage, or keep connected to candidates. So simple things like, WhatsApp, voice message, brilliant, wicked, straight through. Implement that into a kind of recruitment process more formally, I think could be super useful. So be passive, take loads of demos, you'll get the request a day, I guarantee. My suggestion, be proactive. Go and find the things that are interesting to you.
100%. I mean, as a TA professional, like, the onus is on you to future-proof your TA setup. The onus is on you for knowing like what tech to use. And don't just trust the tech. You need to answer the right questions, and you need to partner with the vendors who believe in their tech and who can, educate you around this topic. They should and they will, for sure. If you ask their question, they will. So don't be afraid. Go out demoing.
Just a point on that for any kind of tech providers, right? If you're contacting TA managers and recruiters around, kind of a new particular piece of technology, software, whatever it is, platform, right? I would say more experienced recruiters like me are not interested, particularly in the UX from a TA side. It's okay, where's the data source? what is your data source? Where is that coming from? How are you checking unconscious bias within that particular data source? Where is that data being stored?
Yes.
So there's a lot of, I think the transparency of the actual algorithm and mechanism is what I'm interested in when I'm thinking about, putting together almost like a candidate experience, because I'm thinking of it from the candidate's point of view. If they're applying for a particular role and we're sort of saying, hey, we're using this particular platform and all your data is stored in Europe, and actually you may or may not be able to access that.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
things to
Like
consider.
really take the ownership and consider, as you mentioned, what's most important, and take, go and ask them, because the vendors will help you in every way.
100%.
Time is running. So the third, most important question right now, and modern recruiter would ask themselves would be, how can TA foster inclusive hiring? And let me just state this. Diversity and inclusion is not TA's responsibility, but it will help the organization if we lay out the groundwork. I really repeat this on an everyday basis. It should be a joint OKR, but we can do a lot to foster inclusive hiring. So,
Definitely.
Glenn, how would you go about this?
Well, it comes back to that point around kind of tech, right? So ultimately, the platforms and channels you're using, does it tap into a very diverse candidate pool, first and foremost? Secondly, in terms of the actual process, the actual candidate process, so end-to-end process, is it an inclusive process? Is it inclusive for gender diversity, BIPOC diversity, neurodiversity? So thinking along all those lines, and then equally partner with the business to really understand the kind of DEI targets and vision for the business, and see where that can be implemented into recruitment, where recruitment can complement it, support it, whether that's a policy-based kind of approach or whether it's a technology-based approach. Because I think, and equally, one other question I would ask the business and hiring managers is always, what do you think are the barriers for you to actually hire very diverse talent? I did a workshop session at the beginning of the year, and it's really interesting. These kind of startup companies, some of the things that they perceived would be a barrier to them would be kind of budget, identifying talent pools, relevant talent pools, the recruitment process. So these are all things that actually you can educate and support a business with, to realize that, one, they're not barriers at all. There are always solutions. So I think just at a high level, those are the things that I would potentially look at.
Yeah, and in addition to what you just stated, I'd say just be aware of again, the unconscious bias that may be in the way for decisions due to everything around the recruitment process. So sometimes we are blind when we're making these decisions early on in the funnel, of course. So and many aren't aware of the fact that it's undermining the organization's diversity and inclusion goals when going about your everyday process when doing this. So and as we just stated, there are TA system solutions and techniques out there who will help recruiters attract, interact with, convert, hire, and all in once, like removing bias out of the process. And a lot of extra work, of course, from the recruiting process. So, for instance, you'd say like automated candidate assessment. You'd say conscious inclusion decision support platform, like say that loud, fast, and automated recruitment softwares and AI-powered chatbots and robots. So there's so much technique out there that will just help you get the bias out of the process and help you save the time you need to put into the interviews further on in the funnel, right?
100%. And I would say on top of that, whilst these platforms and tech can offer you an opportunity to remove unconscious bias, you need to continually check that is the case, that it's continually doing that. Don't just implement a solution, think, okay, that box is checked and we won't need to look at it again. Continually look at the metrics and view that from a holistic perspective. You continually, like I say, you continually have to deep dive and make sure that you're getting the results that you expect and want, right? Yeah,
100%. And like from my point of view, like remove bias of the hiring process, like in the TA, like the top funnel would be like to look into social media, since it's forbidden to have targeting against like gender, ethnicity, and age on social media. You can do a lot to widen your talent pool and like make sure potential is measured as early as possible, and that will like get rid of all these, you know, ageism and all that could come into and being considered in the process. So definitely look into like where does the best or the most of our candidates spend their time. Do you know how many people are on social media today?
No, but I know you're going to tell me, Sarah.
I will, yes. 4.2 billion people. So if you're looking for like every type of human under the sun, this is the place to go, right?
I'd say that was a pretty captive audience, right?
It is definitely.
But I think it's an interesting point you make there, just in terms of how you assess for potential, right? So I think typically recruitment processes, perhaps frameworks, assess on the basis of general intelligence, right? IQ, experience, etc. So then it's really about how do we start to assess for creativity? How do we start to assess for kind of risk, rationality, soft skills, emotional intelligence? There's so many things that I think you need to start looking for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need to start looking for at a very early stage of the kind of recruitment process, not just can they tick some boxes in terms of skills, experience, because we're looking for future potential. We're looking for people that are going to go on a journey with our business and grow and develop whilst they're, you know, kind of with us on our growth journey as well, right?
Definitely. And social media will help you like target for behavioral targeting, like different kind of retargeting on these kind of different groups that you're looking into. And it will help you enable this candidate journey, like always on mode, because you have to seduce your candidates over time. You can't just shout. And again, ticking the boxes won't work. So really own the process once.
100%. For sure.
So yes, we have some minutes left and we have a lot of great comments with us. Let's dig into some questions, and then I'd like your most important key takeaways to finish off this session.
Yeah, cool.
Would that work?
Yeah, that will definitely work. Let's get into the questions. What are people asking?
Yes, I will read them up to you and we'll discuss them. So we have a question from Ron. He's the CEO and co-founder of Caro Solutions Sweden. And the question is, I got a question about ageism and talent. Can we talk about talents after 40?
Wow. Well, thank you, Ron, for the question. I think this kind of comes into that kind of ballpark of unconscious bias, right? I think certainly when you're talking about the hiring process, and more importantly, the people that are tasked with that hiring process, you need to be looking at kind of unconscious bias training, but not just one workshop session on it. This is again an iterative process of continually educating and sense checking the people that are part of your kind of recruitment team and hiring managers for those unconscious biases. So we start to look past anything like that, like ageism. I mean, to be fair, I'd be quite shocked and slightly appalled if a hiring manager was to kind of point out the age of somebody these days. I don't think it's not relevant. We're looking at skills, experience, skills, experience, and future potential, right? And being after 40 myself, that resonates with me, right?
potential.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, but it is. And if you like do design your TA funnel, this won't be a problem, because you will have, you know, designed it for you to
not even a consideration.
No. To attract, test, and assess on potential, which is beautiful.
That's the idea.
But thank you, Ron, for this great question.
Thank you, Ron.
Jump into the next one. Let's see here. I'll read this up for you, Glenn.
Oh, please do, yeah.
So this is the question from Laurent, Global Communications Lead at Unilever. The question is, understanding how an applicant tracking system views your resume is the first step towards getting your application into the hands of a human recruiter.
Okay.
But what if it's not successfully integrated in your hiring process and still it causes poor candidate experience?
Okay. Well, I think the first part of that is are really around how kind of applicants are educating themselves around, you know, how ATS function works. You know, when they click one, apply to LinkedIn, they know that that's going to an ATS, that's going to be parsed in terms of data. Now, if I read Lauren's question correctly, he's sort of saying, okay, what if there's almost like a break point or manual point in terms of the application going through, and actually then what happens between that application and actually a human responding to that if there's no kind of notification to look or view, and that actually probably creates a poor candidate experience, first and foremost in terms of acknowledgement of the application, and then the response time to manage expectation. I think that's something that recruiters do need to be mindful of, right? That when somebody invests time to apply to your company, they deserve a response. They deserve their expectations to be managed. And that is that first contact will often really shape their view of you as a business. So it's, I think to Lauren's point, it's super critical. And certainly if, applicants have gone to the trouble of really trying to understand how your process works, you do need to give them a very good experience.
100%. Really, really great
Thank you,
question.
Lauren.
And
good question,
thank you, Lauren. I'm gonna check if we have any more. Yeah, we have a lot of questions. Hard to choose and pick. Okay, let's see. Well, so first of all, time is ticking. So perhaps I'll look for them. And if I were to ask Glenn for your most important takeaways from this session, like we are easy creatures. We need to be told what to take with us. And I veto myself. Is there anything I won't miss out on from this session?
So I think that the real headline here is measure what matters to your business. If you're talking as a business, you're talking about a great candidate experience, you want great talent to be attracted and engaged, and then you're able to hire them, you need to measure what matters in that recruitment process to them, not to you, to them. So you need to understand what makes a great candidate experience for the type of people that we're trying to attract to our business, and then measure whether your particular TA funnel or your candidate experience delivers on that. So that's the first piece. Secondly, data. Whilst utilize data, and we spoke about this pre-show, right, Sarah? Technology is an enabler, but you do need to be able to use it, and you can't be scared of data, right? So you do need to understand what you're using, why you're using it, and what it's measuring. And I think, TA and recruiters need to really get into that. And I guess the third and final thing is be curious. Continue to be curious about your industry.
Yeah, and you don't need to be tech savvy. You have to be tech comfortable, or at least tech curious, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's the way we're heading. And no, you can't just shop for any cool TA system. You need to know what questions and what problems should be solved by this, and own it. Like own your 100%. Territory in TA.
And I mean, it is to the top of the show when we discuss it, right? You are the expert. You are the TA recruitment expert. Own your space.
Own your space. Those will be the final words. We are up with time, Glenn. I'm so thankful that you joined today. If some are curious and want to know more about you, they can reach out on LinkedIn.
100%,
yeah, perfect. Okay, so we'll see you guys on LinkedIn, and I hope you look forward to the next session. And thank you all so much for today.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sarah. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.